Hi, my friends, welcome. I just wanted to get this idea out of my head and recorded as soon as it came to me. And so I'm doing it in this format today, mostly for the sake of time. But, you know, sometimes when creativity and inspiration strike, you have to chase after it, because if you think that you're going to do it later in a few hours or the next day, it is gone. So here I am. And this topic I'm going to be talking about today is a deep one, but it is worth talking about and it needs to be talked about. So I'm not going to go into it in great detail. So please understand that I understand that this is deeper and I don't want to do it a disservice, but I do want to deliver a little bit of clarity on this topic. Why do narcissists and codependents resort to drama when they are in relationship? Because that is one of the defining characteristics of the narcissist codependent relationship, is that both people resort to drama. So first, just to outline really quickly, the narcissist and the codependent both have an extreme lack of self-love. In fact, they have a deep amount of self-hatred. And the ways that they get love is always from outside of themselves. And those ways are reciprocal. The narcissist gets love by controlling, manipulating, gaslighting, or getting the people around that person to give them love, to do things for them, to act in the ways that they want, to please them. And that is how they feel loved. The codependent has the opposite way of getting love, and that is to do for others, give to others, to please others to the greatest detail, to the smallest details, to give of themselves and to always be anticipating the needs of others and to rise to the occasion and to be there for them emotionally, physically, financially, in any way. And so you can see why the narcissist and the codependent tend to get into relationship, because they have the same wounding and thus the reciprocal way of getting needs met. Even though it is, as I've said in other videos, it is the perfect storm. It is the perfect setup for continuation of dysfunction and further damaging of that original wounding from childhood. So, both codependents and narcissists have emotional immaturity. Now, hear me out. I know that sounds harsh. I once heard that years ago, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Holy cow, emotional immaturity. But look at it this way. When this wounding occurs in childhood, we are fragmented. We become fragmented, and that part of us that was traumatized by that emotional wounding stops growing. There is no result, no healing, or no conclusion to that trauma. So that trauma stays within us. And so there are parts of us that are still quite young in development. Even though our physical age is whatever it is, there are parts of us that are still reacting out of the place of that when that wound happened, because our growth in that area stopped. There was no healing and no resolution to that time that we absorbed that wound. So what is learned then is the way to get our needs is to, since we know that asking for our needs is not going to be, we're not going to get our needs by asking for it. We are not going to get our needs met by any sort of healthy means. And so you kind of go up or further down on the continuum until we are acting out. And then we are seen, and then we can get our needs met. So often, I'll just speak for the codependent here. Oftentimes the codependent is so used to being small and being underneath people and doing whatever they want them to do and serving other people and never getting their own needs met and even suppressing those needs and just serving others all the time, and they feel invisible. So what happens, let me go back to the relationship dynamic. In the relationship with the codependent and the narcissist, they will continually trigger each other. As long as they are both in those roles of narcissist and codependent and acting out those behaviors, they will trigger the hell out of each other, not knowing that they're doing so. So, for example, If in the relationship, let's say if the codependent is the woman and the narcissist is the man, and the codependent is maybe feeling insecure about something and is wanting or needing more support, more attention, and the narcissist ignores that bidding for a connection and does not provide that support, and they are triggered because they are not getting love from the codependent. They need the codependent to do for them so that they can feel love. So what they do is they withdraw, they abandon, they retreat. Maybe they resort to passive-aggressive behavior. So then the codependent, receiving now this silent treatment or this absence of love, is now triggered by, here it is again, more abandonment. And that is what the codependent has been through over and over and over growing up. So, for example, then, or continuing with this example, let's say that the codependent then is then reaching out because they are triggered big time. And then they're triggered and then they're texting their partner and the partner doesn't respond. It's just crickets. And it's back to silent treatment because that person now is being triggered by the codependent, and it's like this vicious loop that just goes back and forth, and it just escalates. So what eventually happens sometimes is that the codependent will escalate so much and then into some big outburst. And then now there's you're just climbing the ladder of becoming more and more dramatic because they are getting more and more fearful, more and more just feeling out of control because that old wound of abandonment is getting lit up big time. And what comes out is this huge outpouring, this big display, because they are screaming to get their needs met and they don't understand why this person is leaving them. And then what happens then is now the spotlight is on that person. Like, look at what you did. Look at how you were acting. This monster in you came out. And then what the codependent does is they go back into their shame spiral. I'm so bad. I'm so terrible. Look what I just did. Oh my God. It's just awful. I feel so bad about myself. I should try harder. I should do better. I need to work on this, and so on, and so on, and so on. Do you see what I mean? Now, that's on the codependent side. Let me give you another example from the narcissist side. Let's say the codependent is starting to heal and work on themselves. They're starting to build up self-esteem, and they start to set boundaries. Now, to the narcissist, setting a boundary is going to piss them off because they can't handle people saying no to them, because that is lighting up their wound. Someone not giving them what they want, someone not performing or doing for them or giving to them, showing them love is an affront to them, and it hits their wound, triggers their wound of not getting love, of also being abandoned in childhood. So let's say the codependent draws a boundary with her partner, and the partner then starts to kind of go up that same pattern. If you were to think of a ladder or think of a continuum, and they gradually go more and more dramatic, more escalating more and more as that wound gets felt and triggered. And so the codependent starts to say, no, that's not okay. You can't treat me that way. I'm not going to stick around for it because I don't allow people to disrespect me that way. And the narcissist will blow up until their blow up can bring the codependent back down to where they were, until they have control and dominance over the codependent again, and that the codependent says, oh, okay, I'm sorry, and they say, I'm sorry, and apologize, and they become small again, and they go back on their own boundaries, and that can go on for an hour or longer. The narcissist is also acting out their original wounding of abandonment, this deep internalized self-hatred. There must be something wrong with me, but instead of facing that feeling, they resort to manipulation to get the love and displays and any sort of demonstrations of love. And so a boundary is an affront to that. So in order to get that, stay back in that homeostasis, even though it's dysfunctional, they will escalate and then boom, big drama, big explosion. You see what I mean? This is bad. This is a vicious cycle. What do we do about this? We all have wounds. We all have shit. We all have issues. None of us get out of this life without trauma. All of us have experienced trauma, heartbreak, loss, sadness, betrayal. And we think we're alone in that, and we're not. All of us have experienced it. We just don't want to talk about it. Understandably, this world does not provide the support for that. So what we got to do is we have to work on ourselves. Not fixing the other person, not changing the other person. We have to work on us, healing ourselves, knowing our value, knowing that we are worthy of respect, and not sticking around when someone treats us like shit. You deserve better than that. You have to look at your own wounds. What did I learn in childhood about who I am, about how it's okay for others to treat me? How was I treated? Was I respected in childhood? Was I loved for who I was? Or did I have to change who I was to please someone else? We need to ask ourselves these questions. And we have to get solid in ourselves first. And then when we change who we are, we will change the kind of person we attract, both for friends, for intimate partners, or anyone that we allow into our lives. Will change when we change who we are. It always starts with ourselves first. So we have to do this deep healing work. If we feel like we are total shit, we're a doormat, we're always small, and we're afraid to shine our light and afraid to show who we are, then we're very likely, or it's much more likely, that we will find a partner who exploits that, who will feed off of that. And because we don't stand up for ourselves, they will continue to take, and we will be their supply. And we will stay in that same cycle and keep perpetuating that same freaking wounding that we experienced when we were young. The cycle has to stop. The cycle has to stop, and it stops with you when you decide to start taking charge of your healing. And it takes time. It takes time. Think of how many decades have you been repeating the same ways of thinking that stem from what you learned when you were 5, when you were 10, when you were 12, whatever, maybe older than that. And it goes on and on and on. If you keep thinking in those same ways, you will keep getting the same result. So we have to look at that. We have to learn to love and nurture ourselves. And the process of healing is peeling back those layers and reinstalling new ways of thinking, new ways of looking at ourselves. You are worthy of love. We all are, regardless of what our parents taught us, regardless of what our culture taught us. Forget all that nonsense. You are a child of God, of the universe. You deserve to be treated well, but first and foremost, you deserve to be treated well by yourself. Okay, I give you a big, big, giant virtual hug, sending you lots of love and support. Take good care of yourselves. Be kind to yourself. Know that you are worthy. You deserve to love and to love yourself. Okay, thank you for showing up and for being here. I'll see you in the next video.